Weola. So perfect that she just brought all of that into the conversation, because that was exactly what my question was about. I actually have two questions. And the first one was basically based around focus. And it's about how I feel like there's a tendency for humans to often just, we believe that we just must take on whatever comes into our reality because it is quote unquote real. And we must face it, we must deal with it, we must take it on. But then again, there comes a choice, because we always have the vibrational choice about what we choose to give our attention to. And I'm really wanting to go deeper into that freedom of, we can choose in every moment what we actually give our attention to, what we give our focus to, and what do we prefer? How do we want to see the situation? So if something is presented to us that at first glance might seem less than what we ideally would want, we have a choice right now on how we can spin that and choose to see it. And I know that there's a lot of power there for us. What I've learned through the Abraham speak is like the deliberate creation. Even what you guys were just talking about, like riding the bicycle, it's almost that same kind of idea where it's like, you can hop on the bicycle and you can choose the path that you want to ride down. And it's based on what you are experiencing vibrationally. So I'm curious about that focus idea, and if you can speak into that.
The choices that you want to talk about are not about what are you observing or what are you experiencing or what kind of variety is causing you to make preferences. It is only about your choice, how long you stay there. For as long as you draw your attention or you give your attention to, you're focused. In your physical experience, in this and every other physical iteration, you are having the experience of focus. Even when you're purely blissful and get as far as you can to be unfocused, even in your sleep state or relaxation state, you still have present physical focus. In other words, you can come so close to experiencing that unfocused time just for you to feel more of that integration about everything you've observed. But that is not really the reason why you come through into experiencing your physicality. You do not go to experience a lot of questions and then to have a lot of answers, and then a lot of questions and then a lot of answers. You're here to dance between those. And you brought up some very powerful words over there. You said that your choice can be to get there, and sometimes to put the curtain over that mirror and not observe it, and sometimes to take it on. In other words, it is not about what do you observe, it is about are you taking it on with more and more of your attention in terms of how long you stay there. And that, based off of your perfect feeling system that you have within you, you can see and you can find how long that feels beneficial to you. Expecting that you're going to have questions to come through and not feel sometimes some slight discomfort would bring you to the place where you feel like the prize of experiencing physicality is to be in this answer vibration at all times. And we assure you that this beautiful, easy dance about it is there to have everything all together, the whole mix, the whole beautifully orchestrated mix, this perfectly simple creation process experience from all different angles. So as you go to sometimes stir it up, because as you go into that place of stirring it up is the time when you're causing your questions to be born. At that time, you're born into the place of the new discovery, of that observing and making preferences, observing, making preferences. Oftentimes we say about that whole creation process, from question, tipping point, answer, tipping point, question again, and again and again for all eternity. You can also, from your physicality, observe it as observe, choose, observe, choose, observe, choose. And once you catch the wave of wanting, you do not go into observation choosing. At that moment, you get into the place of such clear wanting that at some point you want to release even that wanting, because wanting is also not in that what you call vibration or frequency of having it. It is not in a place of that showing into your physicality. You want to release that needingness to even want it at a time after you clarified it, and allow yourself to be in a discovery, of how you're going to move into this experience, into this experience, into this experience, and open up variety of smaller gift boxes until that clear wanting starts showing up to you through different hows into your physical experience. So what you're talking about is really not only coming to the place of ease, because you understand that you can find ease on any topic. It's just a matter of a little bit of practice. And some topics are stubborn, and some topics are more stubborn, and some topics you want them to stay stubborn because they will allow you to continue asking questions. And that's why sometimes in a place of feeling too easy, or sometimes feeling even bored about what's happening, you go into observing variety, you go into watching news, you go into talking to other people, you go into reading, you go into watching movies, you go into having a lot of content being impressed on you. So based off of that, you can find and start making more preferences about the delightful experience of the creation process. And so as you find that part of the equation, which is you observe something, you choose how long you stay there, you ease yourself into the clear wanting, you allow yourself your discovery to take you into the tipping point. You choose when the tipping point is directed by choosing how long you stay in question, and then you find ease. And that is the part we find a lot have found with so many different ways, some through physical activity, some through a variety of teachings or talking to friends or different teachers, getting their mind wrapped around it. But we want to let you know that there is the whole other part of the creation process that you also want to direct. You want to go from the place of ease and direct into the next question. You want to go into the place knowing that I will now experience variety. I will now go to make some preferences. I know that even some discomfort might show up. I know that it's okay because I can choose. I have my sensitive system. My sensitivity is with each iteration of awareness like this becoming so and so more activated that I will find easier or sooner when to go out of it. But I'm not trying to erase or eradicate these questions, because I came for these questions and I keep coming in this and every other physical iterations for more and more and more. If there is that more that eternity is, it is more questions. Now that is the quote for Armand. There is more questions, more questions, more questions. That is the reason of the exciting place, because as you go and reconfigure the whole everything that exists infinite field, then you go to experience it in a new way, in a new way, in a new way. So from this end of the creation process and from this end of creation process, you can have at all times in your hands those tipping points. And then it is not about what are you observing, because that is irrelevant to you, by knowing that you can choose into what you're observing to stay for as long as you can, for as long as you want to, for as long as you choose, without trying to make amendments to someone or without trying to put any explanations to anyone, because you were the one opening the door for questions to begin with. The only time you want to cover any mirror or any topic is when you feel like you're startled by question, when you're surprised by question. But sometimes even that is okay. Sometimes even that is satisfying, because sometimes you have so much ease that you do not want to deliberately open the door, but you come to the place of so much ease and satisfaction, and then you drive your focus on something else, and then you very quickly see that you could have opened the door, and next time you do go and you open the door. Kosta had these experiences in the first broadcasts. There is over 50 of them that have been done now. So now he knows exactly how to ease up after these calls and how to get himself softly into the focus. And sometimes he would take another moment or two. Sometimes he would keep his mind quiet, but in the beginning, from the excitement, he would rush into a lot of things from this place of satisfaction that he is experiencing, being out of his head for quite some time and going into that which is focused, directed attention, sometimes would throw him off. Sometimes would be like a big surprise where he would have to find a way to see it from a broader place, from a place of wider experience of everything that exists, so he can find that blissful place again. What we're trying to say with this example, especially to you, is that when you are directing it and when you have this inner talk with yourself about, I know that now I'm going to observe something else, and I know that it's not going to feel super steady like I feel now in this blissful experience, but I know that the steadiness I have is so dominant that I'll go back into it as soon as I'm ready, as soon as I get the benefits from these brilliant questions that I'm about to ask.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that you mentioned in the very beginning of what you said about the sleep state, because that was actually part of my second question. So of course that's perfect. And the question was, what I've learned through Abraham, and I'm just using that terminology because lack of other words at this point, but
you can use any words that are exciting to you.
So much less resistant. Yes, so we are so much less resistant while we are in our slumber, while we're in our sleep state, and so sometimes we can allow more maybe premonitions, if you will, or ideas, or confirmations come through because we are so much less resistant in that state. And I'm curious about something that happened to me just this last night. I was sleeping and I felt like one of my younger nephews just showed up, and there was this big thing that happened, and it was like so viscerally real. He came to me, we cried together, we spoke beautifully together, and I ended up like jolting out of my sleep into reality again, where I was physically crying. I had tears all over my body, and I felt like we had just connected and really had that conversation in a very real way. And I'm curious about, is that something that he and I somehow vibrationally matched up within, or is like, what's happening there? Is that me creating it? Is that me desiring it? Or is that him actually desiring attention from me? So he's almost like unconsciously reaching out to me? Or is this whole dream state thing just something that's completely beyond our own fathomable imagination? Like, I really want to hear more about what's happening there.
That there is nothing that is outside of your reach, and we'll start there first. There is nothing that you cannot experience in your physicality and not wrap your head around. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time, sometimes a little bit of practice, but where we want to start with you here is that there is always mutuality. Even with people who do not know themselves, even with the people from the past that are not physically focused in the same iteration as they are known in physicality. In other words, there's always mutuality coming through, because we started this whole broadcast today with the talk about infinite field and moving through infinite options of where you can oscillate moment by moment by moment. So as you're having those experiences, this mutuality between you and your nephew of having a conversation, and some topic that might sometimes have a little bit more variety in combinations of questions and answers, now in a place where you are prone to be as relaxed, as eased up, as you say, resistance free, or as close as you can get to be resistance free at that time, then the blissful experiences are happening, and your experience of releasing even more resistance in your wake state generated by this particular conversation is there to allow you to experience even more and more and more ease, regardless of what topic is at hand. oftentimes there's a lot of beliefs and you choose what these dreams are meaning for you. No one is telling you that this dream means this and these dreams mean that, because regardless of who tells you what they believe in, you are choosing at all times to see what is happening here. But we want to bring this attention to you about this topic on an even bigger and wider scale. Every thought you have about someone is mutual in nature. Every thought that you're having, conversation they're having, there is no surprise when you have a thought of someone and someone sends you a message, or when you have a thought of someone and someone calls you, or when someone has a thought of someone and then is bringing that into the experience right after. You see, those easy places are happening right there. Sometimes you can have the whole bunch of conversations with people without talking to them, and oftentimes you do. Oftentimes that inner talk that you're having with this person about that person, or thinking about this person about that person, all of these conversations are happening at all times, regardless if this person is physically focused, regardless if this person was physically focused or will be physically focused, or is this person someone you know or you don't know. In other words, every time you have a thought of someone, the experience is mutual from that perspective of everything that exists, that is infinitely changing moment by moment with every thought by every particle in the universe.
So are you saying that if I called my nephew today and I said, hey, did you feel like you felt me yesterday or last night, or were you thinking about me? Would he say yes? Like, is this something that actually he could acknowledge? Is that, or is it just me? Like, did I create it? That's kind of what I want to know. Like, did I actually communicate with him on another level?
You are looking at this.
I wasn't thinking about him at all.
You are looking at these experiences from a mutuality point in terms of physicality and synchronicities in time. I thought of you at this moment. Did you think of me at that moment? I thought of you at this moment. Did you have the same conversation with me? I had this experience. Did you have the exactly same experience?
Yeah.
It is not really about that. It's not about the details of all of that. It's about where you are oscillating at that moment.
Okay.
You can have the experience. Kosta likes to offer this explanation often, and we will share it here as well. It's when he thinks of this singer that he follows throughout her whole career. He's never met her, she's not aware of him, but every time he has a thought, every time he observes her pictures, every time he observes her feelings about anything that she's posting, or her concerts, or her little tweets that she's putting around there, at all times there is a mutual interaction. Now he is interacting with a very specific person, but on her end she's interacting with a very specific vibration that he is offering while having that experience. We'll say that again, that she is experiencing, she is vibrating in a certain way, and he is vibrating, oscillating in a certain way, and there is a match, and there is a match, and there is a match. You do not have to be aware of the person in order to make an effect. And in other words, you do not have to be even aware of who this person is to experience variety of places that you can go to, because every time someone is in your thought, it's a mutual thought about that, not about specific you and that specific you, but that's why we said from the place of everything that exists. Your mutuality is always about variety of frequencies. Every time you give your attention to something or someone brings that up to you. So you being in some kind of frequency that was matched up with your nephew's frequency at that particular moment will bring some kind of collaboration. He might not be aware of that, or he might be. And oftentimes in close relationships there is that awareness that oftentimes will give you those beautiful synchronicities. I thought of you and I thought of you, and then we got together. Kosta had this thought. He was playing tennis last week few times, and there was this friend he was trying to get together to play after quite some time, and the schedule did not work out on Monday and on Tuesday and on Wednesday and on Thursday, and the Friday came through and he was finishing his last practice thinking that the day after, on Saturday, there is a little local tournament that he can go and play, and that's the place where he met this friend. And he thought to himself, he was curious if his friend is going to show up, because he does not often come to Miami Beach. He would come once every 2-3 months for this particular event, or when Kosta and Armand did not have car, he would come to accommodate that because of that specific appointment that would be made. But now there was no specific appointment, and Kosta just offered this feeling. Kosta just offered the feeling and this question and this very curious wonder about it. And then a few hours later, he has received the message: did you sign up for this event tomorrow? Because I'm coming in, and also if you're coming in, make sure that they change the rules. You cannot sign up the day off, you have to do the day ahead. In other words, there was a whole lot of multifaceted conversations happening there. Kosta wanting to have this experience of tennis, thinking if he's gonna go through, thinking about his friend reaching out, reminding him and finding the ease to actually go to play the tournament because he really wanted to play the tournament, and as a bonus, his friend shows up. You see, this is how it all goes together.
Yeah, it's really fun to actually have a break with you and then have you come right back. That's actually pretty exciting. And the last thing that I just wanted to say, you've answered everything that I've asked, and I'm just loving what you've said. And I just wanted to add, isn't it just so fun? How we can truly just tap into anyone or anything that we want. And we can just do that with our own vibration, our own choices, our own focus. And it's so fun. We don't even have to be physically present with them at all, and even have them acknowledge that we're thinking about them. It's just so fun.
In that place of bringing that ease into the question for the next and the next and the next experience, there is always mutuality. Your job, if there is any, is to see and to choose and to offer. But when you get to that place of seeing, in other words, when your thoughts are constantly going to some place for this question and this person and this situation and this product, at all times you're interacting mutually with that particular experience. But we'll just leave it at that for you for now. Really, really excellent conversation.